It's unavoidable. Dudes that like their favorite shooting gun want a gun that mirrors that for carry. The Shadow 2 guys have the Shadow 2 carry. The 2011 guys have smaller 2011s. And now Alien guys have little green men. The Alien Remus. So the Alien Remus is Laugo Arms' version of their Alien gun. It is the 4-inch barrel with the 15-round grip, although it is still somewhat a large gun suitable for carrying, but it is kind of right in the zone for a larger carry gun. But you'll need to be particularly well-heeled to carry it because their MSRP ask price on these guns is $5,400 for the optic-ready ones. Yeah, it's a whole mess of money, like a ton. And this isn't even my gun. They sent it to me, they're letting me mess with it. Don't pull any punches or anything like that. There are some negatives that you're gonna, well, there's some considerations, but there are legit negatives that you'll probably want to know about. But the Aliens are called that because they're pretty much unlike any other pistol, and I got to spend some time shooting it. I'll talk about what it did well and those things I told you about. This pistol is absolutely brilliant to shoot, and it kind of had better be based just on the size and the weight. The pistol weighs about 30 ounces with the optic installed, no magazine, whereas like a Commander 2011 weighs about 33 ounces with no magazine. So I compared it in size with the Commander, and at first blush, it does look like a smaller pistol because it has a shorter grip. However, when you put the magazines in the guns, the height of the Remus and a 2011 Commander are roughly the same size. The difference being that 2011s will have the beaver tail at the back and the Alien doesn't. Because the barrel is pretty much in line with the web of your hand, the gun just doesn't jump very much. So when I compared it to a couple other pistols, I had the Kimber 2K11 Pro, I had the Atlas Athena, which is not the same size necessarily, but is in the same kind of price category, and the Fowler Vanta 9, just to see how it went up against a full-size high-end gun as well. You can see in the slow motion video that the Remus holds its own despite being one of the smaller options in play. And behind the gun, the dot was jumping quite a bit less, and that's because the optic does not reciprocate with the gun. That's right, the optic is fixed on the center rib of the pistol, whereas the slide moves to the rear, and you can see that it's just like this weird skeletonized sort of thing. So the slide doesn't move the optic. For a 30-ounce gun, it's pretty minimal in the muzzle climb thanks to the bore axis. It's just super stable when you do same target engagement type stuff. A little bit more muzzle climb, roughly the same stability. I don't feel like I necessarily gave anything away. It's noticeable that the Alien jumps less, but I don't think it's a huge difference. The Athena definitely jumps more, but it's so stable based on kind of the geometry of everything. I've got these grips on the Alpha grip that really kind of make it feel my hand. It's a bigger feeling gun, but I'm able to stabilize it better, big surprise, but it is heavier. It jumps about the same as the Athena, moves around very similarly, smaller grip, still heavier than the Remus. Now this is supposed to be a carry gun, and there is a button that allows you to move the slide by pushing on the optic, and they also introduced a manual safety for right-handed shooters. If you're left-handed, this is just not a good gun for you because there's no safety on the left-handed side of the pistol. But righties do have the option to use the manual safety. It sweeps just like a 1911 safety, and then it's basically completely out of the way. And honestly, you're probably gonna want that because the trigger on these guns is absolutely bonkers. You can see that there. That is basically minimal movement on the trigger, very little weight, very little movement to reset, and you go again. It's absolutely silly. What I wasn't prepared for, although I probably should have been, is the accuracy out of the pistol. Now, I shot this using my range loads, which are Buffalo Creek 115s. They're a supporter of the channel, and if you use this, you might be able to have good things happen if you check them out. And hands down, this gun is the most accurate gun that I have tested. Okay, this was the first group that I shot using the Buffalo Creek 115. It's just range loads, and that's not bad with some flyers, but this is insane. That's 10 shots, bud. That's what a fixed barrel can do. 2K11 Pro with the Buffalo Creek did a little bit better there. Atlas Athena, Fowler Vanta. That one's probably better. Now you may be looking at those groups and think, hey, those groups are significantly lower than the center of the target, and they are. And that's because The Holosun 507K that I originally mounted on the pistol didn't quite seat on the bosses for the recoil in the front. So I couldn't get the optic to raise the point of impact anymore. It was maxed out on that dot. So I took it home and I used 2 long screws, and with that I managed to defeat the push to rack system if you use 2 long screws. Having just backed the screws out, the push to rack system is now functional, and you can see it moves to the rear very naturally, and you're gonna want it to, because trying to grab the sides of the gun and move the slide is just a little bit tough to do. So for manipulations, it's very easy to just use the push to rack system and rack using the optic, which is fine. So I took it out, let it stretch its legs, shooting at, you know, a bunch of targets at a bunch of different distances, and I was pretty much blown away.
5 yards. I'm doing this at 25 yards. That was C-zone steel at 25 yards. This is silly.
The gun just doesn't move around a whole lot, and the trigger is really, really good. Just for you people who want to know how to take it apart, there is a new quick takedown lever on the Remus that is right there in the chamber. So you push down on that lever and you push on the rib there. The top lifts off, and like there is the hammer right there on the underside of the rib. You can swap out the rib for an iron sight rib. Then the slide comes to the rear and the back lifts up out of it. You can lift the slide up off there. You see that there, and there is the piston system in the barrel. It's super wild how the thing works. It's just nuts. You can see the carbon built up on the front of the piston there. There's your recoil spring as well. It's just a super wild gun. It's super cool, super unique. And putting it back together is basically just the reverse. You hook the front of the slide over the front of the recoil system, pull it down onto there, then you take the rib and you just drop it down on top of it and push it to the rear, and whoa! You just put the slide on top of the gun and move it to the rear, and it locks into place, and everything is, oh no, it's not, it's coming apart. They make it look so easy on all those other videos I watched. You just put the rib down on the gun and you kind of push it in from the front until it clicks and you're set up. See, first try, not a problem. Another thing that's really interesting about the gun is the grip is modular. Both the grip panels and the back strap are interchangeable.
There's a good chance I'll drop this screw, so let's hope.
There's a single set screw at the back with a magwell, so you can swap out the grips for different profile grips, and they've got different profiles of back strap as well. And that'll probably bring us into the negative. So as I mentioned, the chamber is down here, basically right there in line, right above the trigger. What that means is that the pistol is going to heat up a lot. If you think about it, the explosion is going off about right there in the pistol.
It's getting really hot. Like, I put about 100 rounds through it real quick in, like, I don't know, sub 10 minutes. And the gun is very, I mean, you can see the smoke of the oil burns off coming off the barrel. It's kind of crazy. Look at this. Look at the smoke coming off it. It gets super duper hot. Can you see that?
All that heat from the explosion does transmit down onto the actual trigger itself. The gun was like super hot to handle, nearly to the point of being too hot. So the gun does heat up a lot based on where the chamber is situated if you're shooting really, really fast, which I was. The next thing to consider is that it is a piston-driven gun. It is not a tilt-lock action like you're used to seeing in like your 1911s, your Glocks, and modified Browning actions, all of that. It is a fixed barrel with a piston. And what that means is there's a port in the barrel that is taking some of the gas from the round going off, and it's moving the slide to the rear to eject the casing. What that means, if there's a port in the barrel, is that you can't use something like a coated projectile. Those plastic coated projectiles will gum up the piston and impede the operation of the pistol. You need to use jacketed ammo with your $5,000 pistol. I know, it's a lot to consider. As I mentioned, the push-to-rack system doesn't work if you use 2 long optic screws, and you'll know that because you'll push the button and nothing will happen. As I mentioned, the Holosun 507K, I've seen other people who did videos on these pistols when they first came out. They're using Holosun optics, clearly with the K footprint. So they were able to get theirs to fit, mine didn't fit on it. And it's like the 507K, which is like the first of the K series optics, and it didn't fit on the pistol. Now, obviously something you're expecting me to say is there are not good holsters for it, and that's honestly not true. This is a G-code holster that is one of the holsters that came in the original like launch kits that they had. It is a fine pistol. It actually conceals pretty well if you're okay with carrying kind of double stack heavier guns. It actually is a suitable carry pistol. It does exactly what it says, and it's got all the crazy performance that you'd recommend. Now, all of the performance, I do want to temper your expectation. It's kind of like if you've got a bunch of problems and you go into a new room, those problems come with you. That's kind of what it's like when you shoot guns of differing levels of quality. If you're mediocre on an inexpensive pistol, you'll be mediocre on an expensive pistol, but you'll have more fun. So don't think that you can just like buy skill and level up. Like if you want to do cool things with the pistol, you're gonna have to put in the time and actually train. But it's your money, you spend it how you see fit. Obviously, you know, there's a diminishing returns curve, and this is way high up on it because, you know, $5 grand for a pistol is a ton of money. It's 5,400, it's $5.5 grand basically. It's a lot, but it is a super unique offering. It is very, very cool. It is a head turner on the range. I mean, they're just cool pistols, but you need to know those things about them. So that is the Remus pistol. It is a bonker shooting, mega accurate pistol that doesn't lift very much in recoil, but it does kind of shoot your wallet full of holes because it costs a lot of money. If I didn't cover anything in the video, let me know, and I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.